This is the NFL Draft Report on 101 ESPN, featuring Tony Softli and Howard Balzer.
Time for another NFL Draft preview. It's the last one, Tony, before the draft. We've been doing this for a couple months and talking about this and talking about that and all the different things. Now, we're just a couple days away, and we're ready to really get into the meat. And so it only makes sense after all the things we've talked about. We've just got to be Rams-centric today with this discussion. What will the Rams do? What we hope they will do? What will probably happen? Those are the things we'll discuss here in the short amount of time that we have. Let's start with hope. If the perfect situation would develop for the Rams and the 14th pick, what would that be in terms of what we feel we'd like them to do?
Well, you know, hoping is Julio Jones falling all the way down to 14, or possibly the Rams going up and getting him, which I don't think will happen. Julio Jones really would be the key in this draft. If they get him, that would start this draft off very, very right for these guys, and I think it would roll thereafter. If that doesn't happen, then you got to be hoping that Corey Legit is there, the defensive tackle that would improve that inside interior defense with that pass rush up the middle and the ability to play laterally. But he would be the next guy that they would have to hope that would be sitting there on the board for him.
Let's look at some defensive ends, because we're talking about in terms of legit, whatever we want to call him, it seems pretty likely that he will be there. And perhaps the only decision that the Rams could make that would not include him would be as if one of the defensive ends that they really like is still there available. And there's a bunch of them. Of course, we don't know what they think, especially about guys like Robert Quinn, about Daquan Bowers, because of the medical issues with both of those guys. But aside from them, we have a group that includes J.J. Watt and Cameron Jordan and Ryan Kerrigan and a lot of different players. Who do you think? I mean, I think we know what you think, but who do you think the Rams would have, knowing what they do, at the top of that list?
You know what? I have a feeling if Daquan Bowers falls to 14 because of the meniscus tear in that knee, that surgical knee, I think that would be a very interesting choice at 14 for the Rams, especially if you had Cameron Jordan sitting there, you had Corey Legit sitting there, and you had the several other guys that are coveted there, Cameron Jordan as well. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at that pick if that guy's sitting there, and hey, throw Julio Jones in there as well. Right. Now, now you got really, they'll take up the full 10 minutes to make sure they make the right pick on that one. And you know what, you got to really listen to your doctors in this situation, and Quinn and Bowers. You have to really lean on those guys to really take in all the medical stuff and really understand the long-term effect and where the value and the risk weigh in, and then make a really good choice.
One end we didn't mention right there, at least, and we've talked about him a lot over the recent weeks, is Aldon Smith of Missouri. You've said from the start that you believe that Smith is more of an end than an outside linebacker, but if he's to go in front of the Rams, it might be to a team that will use him in the 3-4. That's going to be very interesting to see. Yeah,
3-4 stand-up rush outside linebacker, I can see that, or a 4-3 down, hand in the dirt, come off the edge, the same thing. I was with this young man last weekend and had the opportunity to interview him at a signage here in St. Louis, and I'll tell you, every time I get next to this guy, he seems to get bigger and bigger. I'm telling you, long arms, just thick. Reminds you of a Justin Tuck type player, you know, but he said he only weighed 265. He looks like he's getting bigger and bigger. So, I mean, this is a guy that's young, explosive, great first step quickness. He's got explosion, and he's still raw, and I think his ceiling is extremely high. Look for Aldon Smith to be in those talks as well.
That's Tony Softli. I'm Howard Balzer. We've broken it down for the Rams, and a few days we'll know exactly what they did. And when we join you next here on 101sports.com on the video version, we'll be talking about what the Rams did with that first-round pick on Thursday.